Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. All right, so we are back with the third pregnancy update episode, really more than that if you include some of the other ones I've done, like announcing baby on the way and all that. And I can't believe I'm already recording this for the third trimester. It feels like just yesterday sometimes that I was finding I was pregnant and starting this whole journey. And now he's like on his way, like in the next few weeks, which is so fun. So today I'm recapping trimester 3 of pregnancy, the last trimester. And if you missed the episode where I was recapping the second trimester and then the first trimester, I did a rapid fire Q&A type episode to go with that one. Definitely go back and listen to those. Lots of fun advice and ideas in them, especially if you're pregnant yourself. And so I'm going to link to those in the show notes. But today I'm sharing what the third trimester has been like, some of the ups and the downs, but overall it really has been amazing still. I've had a really enjoyable pregnancy and I feel so blessed by that. So I'll be talking about that some, but then I'm going to share specifically some stuff about gestational diabetes testing, my experience with sciatica and getting rid of it, maternity leave prep stuff, launches in my business during this trimester, baby showers, and like I said, maternity leave prep stuff, what to expect from me while I'm on maternity leave, all of that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a fun one. Let's dive in. Okay, so to start, you'll be hearing this a few weeks after I'm recording this. So in an effort to take my maternity leave before my baby boy arrives, I'm recording this a little early. So I'm at 37 weeks right now as I'm recording this. So the baby could technically come like soon, really, or in like another month if he's later. So who knows? Such a crazy thing about pregnancy. It really is a guess date, not a set, they'll be here on this date kind of date. And it's funny because we call it a due date, but the like technical term for it is estimated due date. So it really is like a guess date. But as you know, if you've listened to my other episodes or know me in real life, I really have loved pregnancy so much. I feel like I have said that like throughout my pregnancy to myself, even of like, oh, I've really enjoyed this. I feel good. I feel like myself most of the time, which I'll talk about sometimes I haven't in this trimester. But at times I have felt like ashamed of that a little bit because I know that isn't everyone's experience. So it can feel like guilty saying, oh, I'm really loving pregnancy and I feel great. But I have felt great. I feel like myself and I felt very empowered and strong in my business during this entire pregnancy. And I've accomplished a lot, which has been such a blessing. And I've been mostly comfortable physically. So that's been good. And yeah, if you're someone like who's thinking pregnancy like has to be horrible, it isn't always. It can actually be really enjoyable. But at the same time, like, has it been perfect? No, of course not. I've had bad days and I've had, like in this trimester specifically, a lot of aches and pains and like I've had nausea, I've had moodiness. For example, oh my gosh, I literally cried at the beginning of the third trimester one day. I forget like what week I was at, but I've cried a lot in this pregnancy, but I was crying literally because it was too hot outside. Like no joke, that was like my mental reason for crying, and combined with curtains I bought not fitting. But I went to Target, I bought the wrong size curtains for our nursery. It was like the third time I'd tried to buy curtains and I either didn't like them or in this case, they were the wrong size. And I came home crying about the curtains and the heat. And I was just like laying on the floor, like it's too hot. The curtains don't fit. And I was crying, but also like internally laughing at myself a little bit because I'm like, why am I so emotional about this? But that's what it can feel like. So I've had a lot of that kind of moodiness. And I've also had like heartburn really bad. I've had sciatica, which you're going to hear me talk about. I've had that pregnancy insomnia that people talk about in the third trimester. And then a lot of tiredness, which I'm grateful things are winding down in my business as I have been feeling really tired again. This is actually one of the last podcast episodes I'm going to record before my leave, which is fun to like have all those ready to go. But anyway, it's still been really good and it's been fun. And so that's my review of this pregnancy. I've really enjoyed it. And I've also seen the Lord show up in so many big ways, literally so many big ways. I feel like I could do a whole episode just on that. But in teaching me to trust him more is one thing. And preparing for birth, and so many answered prayers throughout this whole pregnancy, and everything from like answered prayers around no morning sickness really, to other complications I've had going away, or issues I thought might be an issue not being one anymore. So I'm going to talk about that more throughout this episode, but I'm really just grateful. I do feel blessed. I'm so excited to meet my son soon, but I'm also not feeling that like urge yet of like, I need pregnancy to end. And I'm trying to focus on enjoying this time as much as I can while it's just me and Adam, because the truth is like, even though we're both so excited, like we're never going to have this back where it's just the two of us. So trying to enjoy it and soak it up. And I might become less impatient though as I get closer to my due date. As I said, I'm recording this before you guys are going to hear it. So let's start though with how the third trimester kicked off. So I started the third trimester is really like almost like the end of the second trimester maybe, but with the much beloved gestational diabetes test, which if you've ever been pregnant, you know, like no one looks forward to that, right? So if you don't know what it is, just to quickly summarize, it's where you drink a nasty-ish, depending on who you ask. Everyone's different opinions. I also would say now, depends on what flavor you get, but you drink this drink with tons of sugar. The one they gave me was 50 grams of sugar in a pretty small amount of liquid. And then you wait 1 hour and they draw your blood and they're basically seeing how does your body react to that influx of glucose. And if you have a certain blood glucose level, the test is considered a fail and you might have gestational diabetes. So you have to do what's called the 3-hour test, or then they're doing more blood draws, more sugar, fasting beforehand, all kinds of stuff to see if you have gestational diabetes. And every doctor's office is so different in the way they both do the screening test and the real gestational diabetes test. It's actually been really interesting to me seeing the differences. And there's no real logic one way or the other. Like it's like every office is so different. Some places will like have you eat jelly beans instead. Some places are like really into like it has to be this liquid. Some doctors have you fast beforehand. One of my best friends who's pregnant right now, she just had her test yesterday, the screening, and they didn't even make her drink the entire thing of liquid. It's like just everyone's so different. But anyway, here's what happened for me. I had the 1-hour screening. I did what my midwives told me to do. I was eating a higher protein, lower carb meal right before and some other things like that. It was not a fasted test. And so I drank that glucose drink, which I thought was really gross personally. The flavor was lime. I didn't like it. I actually almost threw up. That's like one of the times where like talking about not having much pregnancy nausea, I had a lot that day. And then they did the blood draw and you know, blah, 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 things go on. And so then I leave the appointment, whatever. Next morning, I find out I had failed the screening, and not just a little fail, but it was about 25 over what the highest you can have, the highest amount of blood glucose score, whatever, and pass the test. So they like require it be under a certain amount. Mine was like 25 over that amount. And so I had to schedule the 3-hour test for later that week. And I was really upset. I cried a lot. I was really bent up over it. And I knew like if I did have gestational diabetes, it would be okay. But also I would not be able to deliver at the birth center where I had done all my prenatal care up until that point and where I was really looking forward to delivering because the pregnancy would be deemed a higher risk. And then a lot of other stuff changes with how you eat during pregnancy, in your birth itself. You're more likely to have an induction, all kinds of stuff. You can read more about it online. I'm not going to get into all of it, but there's a lot that can feel scary. And something I really, really hate about the culture around gestational diabetes is there is a lot of blame feeling from like providers, I would say from the internet, even on the mom when you have it, or even just when you fail the 1-hour test. Like there's a lot of emotion to it. And that's kind of how I felt. I felt like I'd done something wrong. Like I wasn't healthy enough. I wasn't caring for my baby enough, all of that kind of stuff. And it's frustrating to me because And I've seen, again, you can read about this because people talk about how there's actually some people on Instagram I started following that do like gestational diabetes education and help for pregnant women. That was really helpful and interesting. But like, I saw someone point out, no one blames the mom for things like morning sickness or having sore feet and things like that. It's like, that's just a part of like what can happen during pregnancy. It happens for some, not others. But with gestational diabetes, there's language around it that can feel blamey, especially with like the fact they call it failing the screening. Like, it's like literally I get a call saying you failed your screening or failed the test or whatever they want to call it. So if you're someone who's in that same boat listening now, whether you didn't pass the screening or maybe you like didn't pass the screening and found out you have gestational diabetes, I just want to say you're amazing as a mom. You did not do anything wrong. And having this condition or failing the screening is literally just about how your body reacts to getting a ton of sugar dumped into it at once. Similar to how a lot of women's bodies don't respond well to pregnancy hormones. And that's what causes morning sickness. It's literally your body's response to being pregnant. And with you failing that test, it's just that your body didn't respond well to getting like a ton of sugar at once. So just don't beat yourself up. And I know that's oversimplifying some of this. So if you're like a doctor listening, you might be like, oh my gosh, you're explaining this wrong. But that's kind of what I learned through all my research and what was helpful to me. So anyway, back to what happened though. I did a ridiculous amount of research before I went and did the 3-hour test later that week, which the 3-hour test, it's called the 3-hour test. I'm pretty sure that's what like everywhere calls it, but it's actually more like 4 or 5 hours of your day. FYI, I spent like an entire day at the birth center doing this test. And I wanted to put my body in the most favorable position to pass it, knowing that the longer test isn't a screening. And if you do have diabetes, the test will catch it. But I knew I didn't want like a false positive because of doing something wrong. So I researched a lot. I learned a lot. I'm not going to share exactly what I did because every provider does the test so differently in the way they execute it, that what I did for my specific situation doesn't really matter unless your provider does it the exact same way. So anyway, leading up to the test though, I really did get a sense of peace around it all. Like I had a lot of anxiety when I first found out. I felt really torn up about it, but I really did end up feeling a peace around it. And I was praying a ton that God would just be present in whatever happened and asking him to help me trust him with my birth experience, even if it doesn't get to be what I thought I wanted it to be, right? Because like he knows better. And I'm over here being like, I have to deliver at this birth center and that's what I want to do. But like trusting him that like he would make everything the right outcome and take care of me and baby. So that week in particular, actually, I was reading in Colossians in the Bible. I had been reading it for like more than a week, but that particular week, the day before my test, I was reading the scripture. It's in Colossians 3 about peace that comes from Christ and like living in peace. And that I felt like I really like meditated and studied that scripture leading up to it. And that's what I was praying for. I was praying for like peace that can only come from God, peace that doesn't come from me, but that is like a peace without even like understanding in some ways, like all of that, because my instinct was to freak out and to have zero peace and to try to control everything to death. But I really did feel like God blessed me with peace that can only come from him living in me that entire 5 hours at the birth center. And I actually see a lot of blessing now in the fact that I failed the 1-hour test, believe it or not, which I'll share about. But I felt good. So I went to the birth center very early that morning after fasting. You start with them drawing your blood on an empty stomach as a baseline. And then I drank 100 grams of the sugary drink this time. So double the previous amount that almost made me throw up. They gave me orange flavor this time, which I think tasted better. I actually liked the way it tasted, whereas the lime one I thought was really gross. So anyway, they gave me the orange, liked the way it tasted. I waited an hour. They did the second blood draw. Another hour, they do the third. Another hour, they do the fourth. And as you can see, if you do the math, it's longer than 3 hours really that you're likely going to be hanging out at your provider's office. So instead of lying down between each draw and chilling like I did the first time, I did some work. I brought my laptop with me. So like that day I was working and just doing things in my business. Working on my course. I forget what all I did that day, but I did all kinds of stuff. And then I also did some yoga and I would do some squats and movement and walking. And I prayed a lot. I listened to some of my birth like meditation tracks and I just felt good and I felt at peace. And again, I was there there for a really long time, like about 5 hours. And I got my results back later that day and I had passed. I hate, again, the language of pass fail, but I found out that I did not have gestational diabetes, which again, I was so happy and grateful. I praised God all afternoon for that gift. And also just like, it felt good to have come to peace with the idea of having it, which I don't know if you're gathering that from the way I'm talking about all this, but I really did feel like a piece of like, you know, if I have it, it's literally going to be okay. And there are actually good things that could come out of it. And I wanted them to catch it if I did have it. So again, some things I can see as positives though from this whole experience. God called me to trusting Him 100% and realizing how much I can't control in a good way. It can be so easy for me, and I'm sure some of you can relate, to just want to control everything. And to see yourself as like, you're going to like fix the situation. But He taught me really to trust Him 100% in that area of pregnancy. And I got used to having needles in me, which is so funny to say as like a pro, but I had only had my blood drawn like once or twice in pregnancy so far, because they don't do that a lot at birth centers, I think is why, or maybe you just don't have to get your blood drawn a lot in pregnancy. I don't know. But having my arm pricked like 5 times in a week, plus all the times that they couldn't find my vein, which was really, I know that sounds gross, but it's really not fun. But they struggled towards the end because my arms were just like really tired of being pricked. And so I got used to it though. And it really set me up to finally see getting a needle, getting a shot, whatever it is no big deal. Whereas like for years, I'm like, the idea of getting my blood drawn was like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. So that was a pro, right? I also got really comfortable in the place that I hope I'll give birth in. Again, I still know that like things can happen. I can end up transferred to a hospital or something like that. And I'm okay with that. But I'm planning to birth at a freestanding birth center here in Nashville. And if all goes according to plan, that's where I'll give birth. And that birth center is where the testing happens. So I was literally hanging out there for like 5 hours straight. I got cycled through a lot of different nurses. I like walked around the building more. And so I was hanging out there for so long, I seriously made myself feel at home. And now I can feel myself now associating the birth center with being homey, which is what you want in birth. People say that's a like huge pro of home births, is that you like are going to naturally feel more relaxed because you're so used to like being comfortable when you're at home. So that's like, you know, I want to feel that way about the birth center too. So I feel like those were like some pros there, you could say. So that's my experience there. And that was longer than I had planned to share. But that was definitely the most defining thing for me in this trimester so far. I know I'm still not done with it as I'm recording this, but that was like probably the most defining thing. And then the thing I'm going to share about next. But I do hope for any pregnant mom that's listening that you will not feel ashamed around the gestational diabetes conversation, and know that it's not your fault regardless of the outcomes. And I will look and see if I can find the accounts that I thought were so helpful. But there are a ton of like, people have literally built businesses around helping women with gestational diabetes, like manage that aspect of their pregnancy, and a lot of really good education around it that was helpful to me as I was like researching and trying to learn more about it. So I'll try to link to those in the show notes if I can find those accounts all again. Okay, so let's talk about the other really defining health thing from this trimester, and then I'll get into some like more fun stuff. But the other thing was that I had a really horrible case of sciatica for about 4 weeks with it might have been more than 4 weeks. It was around that though. I tried to figure out the exact math of it and couldn't, but about 2 of those weeks was like literally I could barely walk. And then 2 of those being where it was slowly going away. And then right before that, it like slowly revving up for like about a week. So sciatica, right? Like you probably heard of it. I don't know that I had though before being pregnant. Like I didn't know much about it, but something that happens outside of pregnancy too, but can happen in pregnancy if the baby is sitting on your nerve or in some kind of position that's causing strain on your sciatic nerve. And there can be other causes too besides the baby's position, but that's kind of what I was told about it. But basically, you have a sciatic nerve, right? It starts in your low back. The nerve goes down each leg all the way like down the back of your leg. And for me, I had sciatica, meaning the nerve was super like hurt basically on my left leg. So it went down like the pain starting at my spine, lower spine, and literally was radiating like all the way down my leg, like almost to where my foot was. So the farther down your leg the nerve is hurting, the worse you'll feel. And the more concentrated towards your spine you can get the pain, the better you'll feel. So if you have like milder sciatica, it might be that you're hurting in your butt and like thigh a little bit, or just in your upper back or lower back rather, that sort of thing. So mine came on pretty strong. And at first I thought I pulled a muscle or something. I was like, like I'm having this pain. And as it got worse, I was like, okay, this is not a muscle pull. I started Googling stuff and I learned about sciatica, and it got worse and worse until, I'm not kidding, like it felt so painful to walk, to sit upright, like literally everything was just hurting, like excruciating pain. And if you've had sciatica that goes down your whole leg, then you probably know what I mean. I also had a Charlie horse pain, like soreness in the other leg at the same time my sciatica came on really strong. So I was just in a rough place and it was really horrible. And the days that it was like slowly getting to be its worst was actually during my template launch. And then the 2 days that I would say like it was probably the worst it ever was, because it started to get a little better after this. But it was over the anniversary of my dad's death a year prior. So already a weekend that like felt really weighty and a lot of like emotions. And then on top of that, I was like basically bedridden. So anyway, that was a rough weekend. And if you ask people online for advice about sciatica, I'm just going to warn you, you're going to get some scary stories. If you like go in like these pregnancy forums or just ask random people for advice, you might get some scary stories. And that was not helpful to me. I had to just block it out. And you will get a lot of people who tell you that it didn't go away for them until they delivered their baby, which is also really discouraging because this was happening for me at like 30 weeks. So I'm like, I cannot imagine having this for this many more weeks until my pregnancy ends. It was like I literally couldn't do anything. So mine did go away. So if you were in this boat, there is hope. I just want to share that encouragement with you. And I did basically everything you can read about online to help with it. Like literally anything I read, generally speaking, I tried. And so I want to share some things that like the things I did in case this helps someone else. And again, like, I don't know which thing actually solved it. I prayed so much that the Lord would like literally just remove the sciatica. And if he wasn't going to remove it, I should say, like if it was like something that was supposed to be with me to the end of my pregnancy, I was praying that I would be able to figure out a way to live with it, because I was not feeling like living with it when it was so bad. So anyway, here's some stuff I did though. I bought a TENS machine. It's like TENS machine. I don't even know how to describe it. It feels really good. It's good for like sore muscles. You're kind of like, it's going to sound bad, but you're like electrically shocking parts of your body, like the muscles, and it helps them relax. It's something you hear about people using during unmedicated births to help with contractions. So I was already thinking about getting one, but I bought one early, and that was so helpful. Like it felt so good to just lay on the couch, hook up the TENS machine mostly on my leg. You never want to put it on your stomach or anywhere close to your baby, and you want to make sure your provider like says it's okay to use. And you don't want to do the like speed up too high, but that was really helpful to me. I also did a lot of heating pad and then switching to like ice pack on the pain. I rested intensely for a few days, so almost no walking at all, like literally just on the couch, like literally not even getting up to go to the kitchen basically. And then after I had a few days of like intense resting, I started walking again, even though it hurt. So I like intentionally would be like, okay, I'm about to like walk for 10 minutes. It's super painful. I'm walking super slow, but like, I think that helped with the healing, like the resting and then going to that. I also have been going to the chiropractor since my second trimester, but I kind of revved it up and we did like a few extra closer together sessions during this time. I've been going basically every other week. And so it was like I was going every week for this. Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed, so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and had them, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravey.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravey.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. I was searching on YouTube for things like sciatica yoga videos, sciatica and pregnancy help, things like that. And I would do the videos. So like all kinds of really restorative type yoga or stretching. There's a lot of great stuff on YouTube to help with this. So just look that up. And then I did a lot of PT type stretches for it that my chiropractor told me and that I found on the internet that are supposed to help with sciatica. I went swimming, I think 3 times total. And swimming, when you have sciatica, feels so great because you actually don't feel the pain. So it's like as soon as you get out of the water, you're back to like the pain of walking. But when you're swimming, you feel pain free, which was pretty cool. And that was like nice for me to like really move my body and work those muscles without being in pain. And swimming's just fun, right? Like when you're pregnant and like the heat of summer, like you gotta go swimming. And another thing I did was sitting really, really properly. So really focusing on no bad pressure, not crossing my legs. Things like that, which is hard for me because I'm someone, even right now in pregnancy, I'm like sitting Indian style all the time and like crossing my legs. I tend not to sit great. So I focused really hard on like not having bad posture. And then prayer. Like I said, I was really talking to God, asking for help with this. And so it did go away. I had it again, like I said, bad for a few weeks, and then it slowly tapered off, and it has not been back since. And I'm really grateful for that. I know it could still come back technically. I still have some weeks left, but I'm so grateful that it's been gone as long as it has been. It's been gone during like times when I've traveled in the 3rd trimester and during my baby showers, all of that, which are times where like I want to feel good enough to like do this well. And so I'm grateful it was gone. So have hope if that's you with sciatica, but that was like another big defining thing from this trimester for me. Okay, so let's talk about baby showers briefly. So I had 2 baby showers total, both happened back-to-back weekends in the 3rd trimester. And I actually loved having them back-to-back weekends because it was easier to plan stuff around them. And both were scheduled for after my template launch, after my course launch, and generally speaking, when I've been winding down in the business, which I'll talk about how I've been like kind of slowly moving towards maternity leave. After really my Booked Out Designer 2nd launch, I started moving towards that. So anyway, it was nice like timing. One shower was back in my hometown at the church I grew up at, which crazy thing, the same exact weekend, 6 years earlier, I'd had a wedding shower in the same room of that church. The shower then was thrown by a lot of the same women who threw this baby shower for me. So it's so crazy. Like I saw that on my time hop the day after the shower. That was the same weekend. A photo of me also wearing a white dress, but like not pregnant in that same room for a baby shower. So I thought that was kind of fun. And the other one was with a bunch of girlfriends in Nashville where I live. And both showers were super different. I love that. Like the first one at the church was a come and go shower. So a lot of mingling, no games and things like that. And it was a lot of my mom and mother-in-law's friends. And some of the people I actually had not met in person prior to the shower, but were some people I'm like, okay, this is, my mother-in-law's friend who I've heard of, but have not met. So it was a lot of that sort of thing. And at the Nashville one, it was a come and stay shower where we had games. I opened presents in front of everyone. We had like a full brunch really, and mimosas and all kinds of stuff like that. So anyway, I just seriously felt so loved. I felt like our baby was so loved on And it was just really fun. I love baby showers. I love wedding showers. I love going to them. I love getting to have them, all of that. They're just great. And I have a lot of pictures on my Instagram, on my story highlights from pregnancy from the shower if you want to see those. But I'll add some pictures to the blog post for this episode too if you want to see more from either. And I want to say too, the second shower, the theme of it was Little Cutie. And I just think, not to be cheesy, but it is like the cutest theme ever. So if you need a baby shower theme idea, especially in the summer, go look at my pictures from that shower. It works really well, I think, for like either gender, but we used clementines, like cuties, as like the theme of it. On like the cookies were designed that way. They were used as decorations. All the balloons were like yellow and orange. And it was just really pretty and summery and fun. You can do a lot with that theme. It's one you don't see that often. So anyway, I'd recommend that theme. So that's baby shower stuff. Again, so fun. And we're close to being done with the nursery, really. Probably won't finish it completely until after he's here, but that feels good too. Like after those showers were done, I did a lot of work on the nursery, and Adam's been working on it really like this whole time, putting together furniture and stuff, but we got that really close. Okay, so let's talk briefly about baby boy's name. So we did officially pick his name, and we knew the first name for a while. It was one that we really both liked when we didn't know the gender yet. And there's actually a fun app I'd recommend getting. I think it's just called Baby Names, but you and your significant other can both like connect with each other in the app, and it shows you names. And it's kind of like a dating app where you like swipe one way if you like the name, swipe the other if you don't, and then it tells you which names you match on, which is pretty fun. So we did that when we didn't know the gender yet. So it was showing us both girl and boy names, and the name we ended up choosing was one that like we both really liked early on for a boy. And then we weren't sure about the middle name for a while, and at one point we like thought it was completely decided, and we ended up changing it like a few weeks later. I actually literally almost ordered something that like said his name on it, and I like texted Adam and I was like, are we sure about this name? Because I couldn't bring myself to order it with that name. I was like, there's something off about this. And so we ended up changing it. And we actually aren't sharing the name publicly until he's born. So I've shared it with a few friends who I knew I wouldn't get to see in person again until after he's born. I just like really wanted to tell them. And we told my younger sister, so she knows, but none of the rest of our family knows. None of our like close friends know outside of that. So anyway, it's been fun having something I would say that's just for us to know right now. And then we'll share it with everyone once he's born and we are like announcing his name. So if you're pregnant and you're like, I don't want people's opinion on the names, like as you're choosing it or as it's not official yet, like when you haven't actually had the baby yet, I would just say it's fine not to tell anyone until they arrive. And it can also be fun to give a hint, like the first letter, or the type of name. Like, for example, one of my friends who's had 2 babies now, she would tell people like the type of name. So like for her first, she was like, it's a Southern name. And then kind of letting people guess. It can be really fun. And of course, not telling them if they're right or not. But I think that can be a fun thing in pregnancy to not share. And so I'll go ahead and say it though. The hint we've been giving people is that the first name starts with a C. And I actually have a necklace that I really love that Adam got me that has an A on it for his name and then a C on it for our baby's name. And so I kind of like almost had to share it because I've been wearing this necklace for like a few months now. And people are like, what's the C for? And so that's it. So yeah, really excited to announce his name once he's here. Okay, so now I want to talk briefly about business stuff in the third trimester. So crazy enough, I had 2 launches in my third trimester. Towards the beginning of it, I launched 2 awesome new templates, really 3 new templates to M-Shop. So I launched the Taylor template, the Gabby template, and in addition to that, the Gabby like podcasting kit that you can buy separately or get like all connected together. And that was really fun. Again, that was when I had sciatica really bad during that launch, but it's nice because so much of stuff around launches you do ahead of time. And then it just like, is slowly executed. So that's really fun. I love the new templates. I really was excited to like get those out before baby got here. So if you haven't checked those out, go look at them, elizabethmccravey.com/shop. And I also launched Booked Out Designer again, and not as a beta this time, but like just as like overall doors are open, had them open for, I guess like 5 to 7 days, depending on how you look at it. We opened it to the wait list first and then opened it to everyone for about 5 days. And that was fun. So I created that course while I've been pregnant, and I've launched it twice while being pregnant. So a lot of launching, and I felt really good and had better energy during the Booked Out Designer launch. Because again, I had bad sciatica during the template launch. But then during Booked Out Designer, I did a webinar, which I was kind of worried about, like, will I be able to talk alone for it was about an hour and 15 minutes without like getting out of breath? Because I have had that pregnancy out of breathness. You might be able to even tell that from like the way I sound right now on this podcast. But I was a little nervous about that, but the webinar went great. It was really fun. And the course totally, like the launch totally outdid itself. Like there were so many more new students than I was even expecting. It was about like double what the goal was. And all the new students are amazing. So that's just been so fun and getting to know them already. We've had one coaching call so far, and we'll have one more before my maternity leave. And I've also been like active chatting with everyone in the Facebook community and all that. So anyway, been super fun. Feel super blessed. I want to say the 2 months so far that I've had of the third trimester have been my 2 best months in business this year so far. I know for a fact that July is the best month in the business so far this year. I'm waiting still on my bookkeeper. She's going to send it to me, like, honestly, probably while I'm like finishing up this episode, but my reports for July. But July was an awesome month, really high revenue and really high profit margins, which I love seeing. So that's really fun with that launch. And then also just lots of template sales coming in. So anyway, it's been fun like having that kind of be like the last full month in business before maternity leave and it going so well and getting to have that launch and all that kind of stuff. So feel really blessed, feel really excited about new students and excited for all you guys who have snagged a template recently, whether it was during the launch week or since then. So anyway, really fun. Go check out the templates if you miss those. And then if you want to get on the waitlist for Booked Out Designer, I'll put that link in the show notes too, because we will be opening the doors again, probably not till next year, but that is something you can check out. Okay, and to close us out, let's talk about maternity leave plans. So as I'm recording this, it's my last full week, like quote unquote, in office before my maternity leave. Next week, I'll have a coaching call on Tuesday with my Booked Out Designer course students. But besides that, like I'm done with meetings. I'm done with podcast interviews. I don't have any open client projects. We've wrapped up all of our team meetings. So we don't have like today, normally I'd actually be about to start a team meeting it's a Tuesday as I'm recording this. But we were done with those. And it feels so good and so well timed because I'm in nesting mode now and have not wanted to work as much, honestly, which I will say has not been true most of my pregnancy. Like I said, I've had a great year in business so far, both in revenue and profits. I've gotten a lot of big things done, stuff I never thought I'd be doing while pregnant. I'm so grateful that I felt well enough to do those things. But I haven't been like, oh my gosh, I'm like only want to deal with baby stuff. I have not felt that way most of this time, but I have felt that way like the past few days. So I'm like, it's good timing that things are wrapping up as they are. And I have an entire episode coming out about my maternity leave that's going to air during my maternity leave. And I'll be sharing exactly how I planned it, really giving you a blueprint for how you can plan your own or like a long vacation or a sabbatical or whatever it is, stepping away from your business and planning it well, because I honestly think planning like a long vacation is super similar to what I've done with this maternity leave. So stay tuned for that. That'll be airing in about 9 episodes from this one, because again, I have podcast batched for while I'm on maternity leave. So let me summarize though, actually, even as I say that, like what will my maternity leave look like if you're curious? So first of all, I've been starting the leave slowly. So instead of going from like full work week to 0 hours, it's been like I've slowly been tapering things down. And I am starting my maternity leave before my due date. So if he comes early, then that's great. Work will be wrapped up. And if not, if he comes around the due date or even late, that's fine too, because then I will have a few weeks of kind of like more vacation vibes. And hoping I don't get bored, but I actually have an entire list I made. I've just kind of like been adding to it my whole pregnancy of like things I want to do early maternity leave that are just stuff that sounds fun. Like things like hanging out with some friends more. I want to read 2 fun fiction books. I'm almost done with the first one, but I want to read another one. So things like that. Oh, I'm taking an online course that's more of like a lifestyle type course, not a business course. So like some stuff around that, like taking that course, things like that. So anyway, that's my plan there, is to start pretty soon. So I'll basically be starting the leave I'll be starting it right at like 38 weeks pregnant, which is a Thursday for me that like my weeks all land on. So that's my plan there. Another thing to note, I batched podcast content until early November. So there will be stuff coming out for you even while I'm out of office. I'm actually not skipping any weeks on the podcast, which I wasn't sure what I was going to do there. You know, there's a lot of options for going out of office. Some people just say like they're doing like a hiatus, no podcast content at all. Some people re-air old episodes, and then some people do a mix. And for me, it's going to be mostly new content. I would say like 80% new content with a few re-airings as well, but not skipping a week. And again, I wasn't sure what I would do there. I'm like, do I like want to like take a complete break from podcasting? But the truth is like the last few weeks as I've recorded a lot of these solo episodes that are going to air. And then also there's a lot of interviews that'll be airing as well that I recorded a while back. I'm like, I have plenty of stuff to say and plenty of things I want to teach on. So it was fun recording them. And I'm sure like, gosh, during maternity leave, I'd imagine I'll have a lot of podcast ideas once I'm like taking off more from it in that sense. So podcast content still coming. I also will still be showing up on Instagram, probably with more baby content than business content, but also business content too. And I'm planning, like pre-planning some content where I'm writing it ahead of time in order to share it on Instagram during my leave. That is more like business content to my feed. I'll obviously be promoting podcast episodes as normal, and coming on and talking to you guys, all that kind of stuff. And then my team is still working. So even though I'm going to be like really unplugged, I'm unplugging from the inbox. I'm unplugging from like, we're not having team meetings and things like that, but my team will still be working. So customer support will still be happening for MShop and for Book.Designer students. And we get so many emails a day that are podcast pitches and things like that. So those will all still be responded to. And then I plan to stay active in the Book.Designer Facebook community, probably just from my phone, but like responding to questions in there and helping students in that way. And I look forward to that because that's something that's really life-giving to me, as like helping, responding to questions, all of that kind of stuff. So I plan to still be active in that regard, but I am like unplugging from my inbox. Things that are for me in the inbox are going to go to my team first and then to me. Like, so if it's something I need to see during leave, we'll be checking in and I'll be getting to hear whatever the thing is. So that will still be happening. Again, I'm doing a whole episode on this. I'm actually going to record it right after this one, but I have like 9 pages of notes on like totally laying out, like, here's how I'm planning my maternity leave. Here's how you can do a similar thing. But I'm really excited about it. I haven't taken this much time off in my business like ever, I guess. I don't know. I don't think I have. For me, I'm someone who I definitely have had vacations where I don't open the laptop at all, but I typically don't even vacation without bringing it. And so really unplugging will be unique for me, but I know I want to soak up those first few weeks, first few months really completely. And it's time you don't get back is something you hear people remind you of, like emails will always be there and can always be responded to. There will always be like things that happen in the business that might feel more urgent and need your attention, but like you'll never get that time back with your baby and spouse and all of that. So I just, I really want to soak up that time and kind of like let some of the business stuff go to the back burner, but also know that like I've set up my business really well, really strategically, a lot of good systems in place, a lot of good plans in place so that like I can step away. So that feels really good as well. And again, this is my last week in office and I have a lot of random stuff I'm wrapping up that's like both a mix of like fun projects and stuff I've been putting off for a while, but I'm like, okay, I need to like actually do this now. So a lot of stuff I'm working on like that, which is really fun. So anyway, that's it. That's my 3rd trimester recap. And again, I have a few weeks left. So like maybe if I was recording this like right before my due date, I would be adding in some more additional things. I plan to do more episodes around like the birth experience and other things like that too. So stay tuned for those as well. And if you're like wanting to go back and hear some of those other pregnancy episodes, go to 118. That's where I did the 2nd trimester recap. 112 was kind of like the 1st trimester recap. It was a pregnancy rapid fire Q&A where I talk about all different kinds of things there. And then episode 107, my husband Adam and I talk about like the journey of getting pregnant, and then like, some other like pregnancy announcement type stuff together. So that's a really fun one. So 118, 112, 107, those are the episodes. And yeah, like that's it. And thank you guys for listening. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions and you're like, wait, can you explain this a little more? Definitely send me a message. I also am going to have a blog post that goes alongside this that is third trimester product must-haves. I did that for the second trimester. I did that for the first trimester. And I will link to some stuff in there, like the TENS machine I used and some other things like that I've been doing to prep for birth, and outfits I've enjoyed, like for like those baby showers and stuff like that. So definitely look at that blog post if you want links to any of the resources I've mentioned. All right, that's it. I'll be back next week with another episode. Bye, you guys. Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast today and for staying until the end. I appreciate you being here. And if you enjoyed this episode, then I want to invite you to check out my online course and coaching program for designers, Booked Out Designer. In this program, I teach you how to build a successful in-demand booked out business as a designer. You'll learn everything from the exact experience I take my clients through to things like figuring out your niche, mastering discovery calls, pricing your services for profit, creating contracts that will not cause you legal troubles, and my exact social media strategies to book clients. You even get to watch recordings of me in actual meetings with my actual clients so you can really learn through what you're seeing. We take things you're learning on this podcast and so many topics I never even cover on this show and deep dive into them. So in addition to the amazing course, the course is 9 modules of teaching with over 90 lessons. You get group coaching calls with me and access to an exclusive Facebook community of designers just like you. And fun fact, this isn't one of those kind of Facebook groups where the founder never comments on posts or you never see them in there. You'll find me there all the time, ready to help you out with any business question you have. So to get info on the course and to see when the doors will be opening again, head to elizabethmccravey.com/BOD, short for Booked Out Designer. I hope to be able to coach you and teach you inside of the course soon. And don't forget that you can subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening so that you never miss an episode. And a great way to support the show is to leave a rating and review, share it with a friend, share it on social media. All of that will help get the word out. All right, I'll see you again next week.